is Dancing Jaguar Inspirations, and I'm the founder of a program called Dancing Jaguar's Spirit Camp, which is a program that has been created to help children connect to their inner world. And by doing that, children start learning at a very young age that as human beings, we're made up of mind, body, and spirit. And all three of those aspects of who we are need to be nurtured and cared for us to grow up and become healthy adults. So by doing this work with children, I feel like there's a shift in child development because this is an aspect of child development that we haven't seen that much because there's so much focus on children's minds and bodies. And until very recently, not quite as much on nurturing the essence of who they are. So I started this journey after a traumatic brain injury where I was really kind of knocked out of my life for a little while I recovered from this brain injury. And as I was recovering, I wanted to take some shamanic courses. And I researched some teachers in my area, in my state, and started studying with a woman who was just a brilliant teacher. And in, I think it was my second or third year of training with her, she mentioned that she had done this little program with children in her neighborhood one summer, just very informally. And she called it Spirit Camp, and that it wasn't her thing. She had a lot of fun with it, and it was really cute, but it wasn't her thing. But she felt like Spirit was telling her to tell me about it because it may be my thing. And as soon as she started telling me about it, I thought, whoa, that is something that I would really love. So that summer, I was still recovering from a brain injury. I had one spirit camp with children of friends, and I just did a little informal one. But during that 5-day period of time, each one of the children involved in that camp had a really profound experience and said something that to me was like something an adult would say. And I was hearing it come out of the mouth of a 5 or 6 year old. And I thought, holy cow, these kids still remember that connection they have to spirit. And at this young age, and I can really help them understand that it's okay to stay open to those messages that they're receiving and that they don't have to shut themselves down and conform to what society considers as normal, and that by embracing their gifts and their openness and their connection to spirit, that these children are really growing up balanced in who they are and understanding the different aspects that need to be nurtured and tended and cared for if we are to maintain health in our being. So from there, I started receiving messages in the middle of the night at 3:20 in the morning. I would receive a download of information about this body of work that needs to come forward for the children of the world. And at first, I kept thinking that it was just as a result of my brain injury. This was just my brain kind of messing with me or something. But in over time, I started to trust these messages, is that this was an actual download of information I was receiving from spirit, or from somebody out there in the universe. And over time, I was asked if I would be willing to be the voice of this work that needs to come forward for the children of Earth. And I agreed wholeheartedly because I could see the impact it was having on just the very few children I had already worked with. So once that started, that a kind of agreement took place, I realized that this is why I survived the car accident that I received the traumatic brain injury in. This is why I'm here in my life this time around, is to bring forward this body of work for the children of our entire planet. So I started by teaching a couple of spirit camps the next summer, and then each summer it grew. And parents who were enrolling their children in the camp saw incredible growth in their children. And I have to tell you, at the end of every day of spirit camp, the children are like on fire. They can't wait to tell their parents what they learned that day. And it's simply because they're learning about who they are and how they function in this, how they can function in this world as a human being. So they learn, for instance, that we are made up of energy, as is everything around us. So they start learning how to move the energy in their bodies, how to sense energy in others. They learn all about chakras and auras, and it really impacts them um, tremendously, because and they go home and they use these tools in their everyday lives. So I have a story about a 5-year-old that I'd like to share with you, who went to spirit camp in the summer, and then in the fall started school, going full days and on the bus all at once. So the child, of course, had some trepidation, and mom was a nervous wreck. But in October, the mom called me and had a story to share with me about her daughter's school day. That day during lunch, her child was missing her and started crying, and some of the older children in her school poked fun of her for crying. So when she got home and started relaying that experience to her mom, of course her mom's heart was breaking, and she said, "Well, how did you handle that?" And she said, "Mom, I was fine. I zipped up my chakras. I know how to take care of myself." So this child who is 5 years old and away from her mother for the first time in her life was able to take care of herself when she was confronted with a situation in which people were being mean to her. And she zipped up her chakras. So from that point on, every day when that child got on the school bus, she zipped up her chakras before she stepped on the bus. And then her mom would meet her at the bus stop at the end of the day. And as soon as she got off the bus, she would unzip her chakras to go home. So that child absolutely took those teachings in, and without being prompted by an adult, knew what she had to do to take care of herself. So, I mean, that is, to me, is just an amazing example of how these children are thirsty for this knowledge. And as adults, this is the stuff for me and the community of people that I'm really closely connected to. I mean, we live our lives like this. And why hasn't anyone ever started teaching these tools to children? I mean, they are so closely connected to spirit because they're so young. They just came here. So it just, every time I hear a story like that, it fills me with so much joy, and it deepens my commitment to making sure children everywhere have access to these tools and these concepts that we're teaching them. And I'd like to share one more little chakra story for you about another 5-year-old who went to spirit camp. And later on, this was much later, this was in the winter, so months later, her mom came home from work one day and her mom was exhausted. And her 5-year-old daughter went to her and said, "Mom, I think you'd feel better if you let me align your chakras before dinner." And the mom said her heart practically exploded because she realized that her child had knowledge to be able to help her mom get back into wholeness and oneness and feeling more peaceful and calm. And she brought up a really important point here, in that when children are having a bad day, oftentimes people around them have a bad day because the children make it known that they're miserable, and they're waiting for something outside of them to help them shift that negative space that they may be in into a more um, calm or peaceful place. And the children who attend spirit camp can do that for themselves, but they can also do it to help the people around them in their families or in their peer groups. So these children are walking around with this vast knowledge of tools that they can use to help friends and family members also come back to wholeness and oneness. So this is powerful stuff. So in addition to learning how we are all made up of energy, the children also learn how to work with spirit helpers. We teach them how to do shamanic journeying, to identify their power animal, and then how to develop a relationship with that animal and um, access information and support from that spirit helper when they have questions or need support. And I'd like to share with you a story about a child who did just that to help her get through a difficult situation in her life. She was about 7 when she came to spirit camp, and in the fall, I received an email from the mom who told me that a family member had recently passed away in their sleep. And this child became traumatized by that and was fearful to go to sleep at night because she felt she may pass away in her sleep. So, what happened over the course of a couple of weeks is this wasn't going away, this anxiety she had about sleeping at night. And it was really creating havoc in the family routine. And everyone was really sleep deprived and miserable because this child would fight going to sleep every night. And it was traumatic for the whole family. So when the mom contacted me and asked me if I had any ideas for tools they could use to help the child be able to relax at night and go to sleep, I suggested that she bring her rattles out that she made in spirit camp. And after the bedtime routine was over and it was almost time for lights out, she could use her rattles to call in the essence of her power animal and ask her power animal to stay at the foot of her bed to watch over her at night. And then it would be her power animal's responsibility to wake her up in the morning. And the mom said that she would try that night. And then I heard from her the next day, and she said she was amazed at how quickly the child adapted to that suggestion because um, coincidentally, her power animal was an owl who was a nocturnal animal, and she loved her owl. She, discovered it at Spirit Camp, and then she lives in a local community of mine, so she had taken a couple of Spirit Camp refresher classes with me in the fall. So she was really used to calling on her power animal for help. And just hadn't thought about it in that situation that she was currently in. So it was something that became second nature for this child before she went to bed at night from that point on. And the parents said that it made such a difference in their family structure, in the family dynamics at bedtime. So these tools that children learn are taken home and they are utilized as they're facing situations in their lives that other children would normally um, kind of fall apart or have a really hard time with. These kids have tools. And it's really a pleasure and such a joy to hear from parents how their children are utilizing these tools to help them in life. So then we do an entire day of it's kind of social emotional learning modules where the children learn how to identify their inner dialogue. They learn breath work. They learn some mindfulness techniques. We do a little bit of EFT, some tapping using affirmations. We do a whole affirmation module. So on that particular day, they're learning all kinds of tools that they can pull from at any point in time to help them. And there's a really sweet story I have about a young boy who was getting in trouble at school, and he was getting sent out in the hallway. So he contacted me himself with his parents' permission and asked if he could do one of our breathing techniques when he was standing in the hallway. And that particular breathing technique I call the peace breath. And the children imagine that they're holding like Mother Earth in the palms of their hands, and we breathe in slowly and fill up our heart chakras with love. And then we whisper the word peace as we exhale, and we send peace to Mother Earth. Well, in the second time we do that, I ask the children to envision someone they've had a recent conflict with. And as they exhale and breathe the word peace, the second time I ask them to envision that person in the palms of their hands and watch how the relationship with that person alters over time as they're spending time sending peace to that person. So this child who was about 8 asked me if I felt like it would work for him that to practice peace breath when he's standing out in the hallway, because he's been in an argument with another child. It was always the same child in his classroom. He said, if I keep breathing the words, whispering the word peace, and send peace to this other child, do you think that will help the situation? So again, this is a young child who learned this technique months before in spirit camp, and all of a sudden he's pulling it up and he has found a use for that tool and started actually using that tool whenever he got sent out into the hallway, and it helped him start shifting. So let's see. Then, like by the last day of camp, we are actually taking the children outside, and allowing them the opportunity to learn what it feels like to connect energetically to Mother Nature. Like every day we have been going outside and connecting to Mother Nature somehow, throughout the course of the day. So the children are really starting to deepen their relationship with Mother Earth and understand it in a different way than any other nature programs that they may be involved in. So by Friday, the children are learning how to, for instance, walk up to a tree and sense the aura of the tree with their palm chakras. And then they ask the tree for an invitation to come into its space and then to place its hands on the trunk of the tree. And then they ask if they could be allowed to place their third eye, which is a chakra right here, on the trunk of the tree. And then I ask them to just meditate with the tree for 3 minutes and see if they can get a message from the tree. And there have been some amazing messages that children have received just from connecting to the energy of a tree. And then, of course, we expand that, and they connect to the energy of a stone or a boulder or a rock, or if we have a garden nearby to access, they connect to the plants and in the garden. So this experience that they have is so deep and all consuming. Like all week long they are constantly learning new ways to be a spirit in a human body. So I had one mom explain to me once that she felt like her daughter went through a personal evolution in 5 days because she learned to, I mean, she came in on the very first day, um, not knowing anything about being a spirit in a human body. And then she spent time learning about how she is made up of energy. She is made up of mind, body, and spirit. She learned how to work with energy. She learned how to work with spirit helpers. She learned how to work with gemstones and crystals. And she made her own pendulum and dowsing rod and was constantly learning tools to be able to work energetically with her higher wisdom. And by the end of the week, the mom said, my child was connecting to Mother Nature in a way that children just don't learn how to do. And she said, I feel like my child went through this whole personal evolution in 5 days. And she said, my child has done work that I envy, and I wish I had had an opportunity to learn, especially when I was a child. So that kind of led to me doing spirit camp for adults. And I was really excited to start sharing these teachings to the moms of spirit campers. And then that expanded even more into doing programs for other adults who are just brand new on their spiritual journey and wanting to learn about chakras and auras and working with spirit helpers and gemstones and crystals and all of the fun stuff that the kids learn. So there's spirit camp for adults, and there is spirit camp. The spirit camp I do for children is from ages like five-ish, five or six to 12. And then there's a teen spirit camp. And then now there's spirit camp for adults. And a couple of years ago, I started hearing this message at 3:20 in the morning that the world is ready and the children are waiting. And I thought, well, that's really nice validation for the work that I'm doing. But I kept hearing the message, so I knew I was missing something. And then one day I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to take this information that I've been receiving in downloads and I've been teaching to kids, and maybe I'm supposed to write this down and share it with other adults. And as soon as I made that connection, within the next 30 days, I had emails or Facebook messages from 14 other countries with people saying, we don't have anything like this in our country. Can you bring this to us? And that's when I knew I needed to create a teacher training program for Spirit Camp and all of the curriculum. So that is how the teacher training program started, and now Spirit Camp is spreading across the US and to other countries because now I'm teaching it virtually, whereas before March of 2020, I was teaching it only in person. So I had a very limited reach, and I didn't know how I was going to be able to spread this around the world if it was just me teaching it. And now all of a sudden, the world of virtual teaching opened up for me, and now I'm able to meet with people all over the world, including children from all over the world. So it's been an exciting adventure, and thrilled to be a part of this. I feel honored that I have been gifted this opportunity to share this body of work with people around the world. Our website is dancingjaguarinspirations.com, and I can be reached at Ava, it's EVA, at dancingjaguarinspirations.com. And we have a Facebook page for Spirit Camp. It's facebook.com/Dancing Jaguars Spirit Camp. And you can always find out what's going on through our Facebook page as well. Is for those of you who have older children. This child was about 11 when she came to Spirit Camp, and she was already starting to cut as a coping mechanism and was really going into a dark place in her life. And her parents and her therapist suggested that the mom enroll her in Spirit Camp. And on Tuesday of that week, the mom texted me and said, I don't know who this child is that you're sending home to me, but she's smiling. And I haven't seen my child smile in months. What are you doing? And I explained to the mom that I'm not doing anything except providing the roadmap for her to do the inner work and giving her the tools to be able to understand who she is. And the child just was thriving the entire week. And I'm going to tell you, like, just really briefly, one of the exercises we do is to help children understand how they can move energy around and out of their body. So we did this guided meditation, which was on the long side. So I'm just going to tell you about it, where the child learns how to hold energy in their body, and we had them spin the energy around as if it was in the washing machine on spin cycle, and then move that energy up and out of their body and blow it into a pine cone, which we then offered ceremoniously in our little fire ceremony. And it it really had an impact on this child because the day after Spirit Camp ended, her grandmother had a stroke and she was not going to survive it. And the mom texted me, afraid that her daughter was going to start cutting through that experience. And I reminded her to tell her daughter about her spirit toolbox, her wisdom toolbox that she gets from Spirit Camp. And if she needed help, to call me and I would support her through that. Well, the mom emailed me the next day and told me that her daughter, she was writing her email through her tears. Her daughter came to her that night, the previous night, and said, we need to do a fire ceremony for grandma. All of us are going to write letters to her and we're going to read them around the fire. And then we're going to burn them in the fire, and the smoke will carry our words up to heaven. So when grandma dies, she'll have letters from all of us waiting for her. And the mom said, I know she's going to be okay now. She has tools and she knows how to use them. I can't thank you enough. So it's amazing the incredible impact that Spirit Camp has for children who all of a sudden are learning there's a whole world inside of them that they can connect with and help keep themselves healthy and whole. And there are a number of teachers who have completed the Spirit Camp teacher training program. In fact, the Montessori school closest to me now incorporates Spirit Camp. The kind of the SEL curriculum, the social emotional learning curriculum that we do on day 4 of Spirit Camp, that curriculum is now being used in the local Montessori school that I'm at, and they received a nationwide grant to be able to bring that curriculum into their schools. So Montessori schools now are very open to bringing that curriculum into their programs. So I really feel hopeful that we will be creating this movement, this wave of teaching children the connection between mind, body, and spirit, and how important it is to nurture that essence of who they are, as well as the mind and the body.